Thanks everybody. Thank you for your time and your consideration for being part of this audio. So today we have another guest. It's pretty intriguing for myself. Her name is Hasta Kasha. Thank you for being part of this audio, Hasta.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Thank you for inviting me here. And I'm very honored to be a part of this podcast and share my knowledge on space architecture. A little bit about myself. I'm a space architect and I serve as an architectural concept developer at Mars Society of Canada, where we are mostly focused on exploring more about Mars. I got this subject to study when I was just 13 years old. I attended a NASA Space Academy, and during that academy, we were given a task to design something on the lunar base. And I ended up designing a fuel station, thinking that we might end up with the fuel while coming back to the Earth. And I got an award for designing on the moon. So in that moment, I had this thought that NASA is planning to design something on the moon from now. Later on, we might end up designing something for the another planets. So how do I design that? So maybe I need to become an architect, because on Earth, to design something, we need to become an architect, as one of example is you. So I thought, okay, maybe I can become architect. But then how do I differentiate myself from the other people? Because I will be designing for the other planets. So I thought maybe I would call myself space architect. That's when I came to know the term space architecture. And when I discovered this term by myself, there was no education, there was nothing like space architecture at that moment. But just until in 2019, I came across the Sasakawa Institute for Engineering, Sasakawa Institute at University of Houston, where they do teach Masters of Science in Space Architecture. And there's also Wenya University, where you can study the space architecture subject. So now this education is coming up. So to become an architect, first I wanted to understand, because when we study just architecture, we don't quite understand about the materials being used or the construction techniques behind it, or how to make the structural or mechanical properties of a building. So architecture is more focused about designing. So I studied architectural technology as my bachelor's. I started my education when I was 18 and I left India. I'm from India. I was born in India, and I went to UK in a city called Leeds to study bachelor's and honors of architecture technology in a University of Leeds. I did my first year there, and then I got scholarship. I got scholarship from European Union. And then I went to Denmark to do my second year. And in Denmark, I had a chance to study architecture technology along with construction management. So I did like a double degree for my bachelor's, and I got graduated from Denmark. And then I also did 1 year of internship in Uganda, where I was helping government to build affordable housing, because there is a very great demand. There is almost like 2.1 million homes of demand of houses, affordable housing for a year. So that was something I did. And then I got into space architecture in 2019, where I presented my first 3D printed habitat on Mars at a NASA conference that is a conference called International Conference on Environmental Space System. And it was a very prestigious conference because it is a very technical, and a lot of prestigious people come to participate and to watch the conference. For example, there were astronauts and there were higher dignitary people from NASA. So I had this present, and then I got more inspired because I also saw other people for the first time doing something similar. And then I kept on going. Last year, I had a chance to present a deployable origami habitat, which I will talk about it a little bit further when we come across this topic. And yes, so I think space architecture has a very bright future, and it is about, space architecture is not just about designing, but it is literally about finding how the astronauts can live and work, and not just live and work, but to thrive in the space. And as you know, even on the earth, we need a shelter. Shelter is the most basic commodity that a human being can have. And then it's food and water. So space habitat is very much important because it protects us from solar radiation. It helps us to live better in gravity. And there are also a lot of challenges. For example, there are engineering challenges as it is in the space. And there are also other challenges like psychological challenges because the space is very small when you design something for the space. As the less materials you carry from Earth to space is less expensive. The more materials you carry, the more expensive the mission becomes. So you have to design something in a very small space. You have to accommodate the kitchen, the other kind of engineering systems, the water recycling systems, the food recycling systems, the bed, the computer, and everything in a very small space. So you don't have enough self-privacy. You don't have your private room. You just have a private bed. For one current example is International Space Station. So there are also a lot of psychological factors that implicates in that moment. So space designing is about considering engineering, considering psychological factors, sociological factors, other factors, challenging factors on the space, and also to design in such a way that we love to see that habitat.
Right. So, well, maybe I'm going to jump a little bit back on one of the things that you were mentioning about you were forming part of organization or a work about affordable housing in Uganda, you were saying?
Yes.
So what are the similarities that you have found on your, like, for example, now that you are studying like the way how you're going to manage trying to do like these new designs for housing over there?
So both either it's affordable housing or either it's space architecture, both has a cost constraints, because even to build an affordable housing, we have a certain amount of cost that we can put it into it, and because we have to sell that unit. And also for the space, the most cost effective the mission is, the more we can do it. So one of the big factors, the most common thing in both of the thing is cost. The other is the materials, because even in affordable housing, we try to find affordable materials. For example, let's say red bricks, which are constructed on the site, or straw bale construction or hempcrete construction. So, or this kind of construction we use for affordable housing. Whereas also for the space, we use carbon fiber, or I use the basalt fiber for my 3D printed habitat. And for my origami habitat, we use aluminum panels. So there's also materials that you need to consider. For on Earth, the materials are being considered in terms of cost effectiveness, whereas for space habitats, materials are very crucial for the challenges that the habitat will face. For example, on the Mars, because Mars just has only less than 1% of atmosphere to Earth, and Mars has a lot of solar radiation, and also there is no oxygen. And so the materials used on Mars are some materials that we can use is carbon fiber or basalt fiber or aluminosilicate as a glass windows. So materials play a very important role to keep the habitat sustainable for a longer duration of time, because also either it's affordable, and third thing will be like the duration of the habitat, because we don't want to build something that will not last for more than a year or 2 years or 3 years, because architecture is all about, when you design something, it stays for at least 50 years, whether it's any kind of architecture. That's how we see the lifespan of a structure is very much important, and it is common in both the areas. So as let's say, for example, if I'm designing an affordable house, I want it to stay long, so the person who is buying it or the government who is providing it doesn't have to do any kind of work into it, or doesn't have to put more amount of money to increase the lifespan of the structure. The same thing is for the space, because if we are spending $1 billion to send something to the Mars, we are sending a crew. We cannot afford to go back and come back because it takes 6 months to go from Mars to go from Earth to Mars. It is a 6 to 7 months of journey with so much of challenges, satellite challenges, communication challenges, etc., etc. So lifespan is also very much important. That is the third factor that I will say. Fourth factor is even affordable housing has to be very space conscious, because you cannot build like a 3,000 square foot of a space and call it an affordable house, especially if I'm talking about a house in Uganda. So it has certain amount of square feet that you can build it up to. For example, 1,000 square feet, I think, is very much enough. 1,000 to 1,500 square feet is being considered ideal for affordable housing. Whereas for space habitats, we don't consider building in square feet. We consider building in volume, because there is no gravity in the space. And on Mars gravity is only 1/3 of Earth's gravity. So your body language acts very much different in space due to less gravity. Your movement is very different. So you design a different way. But so in space, you calculate per volume, not per square feet. So that is, the space is also one of the very much fourth important factor. Fifth is livability, whether it's a habitat on the Earth or on the space. You want to just make sure that you enjoy your time, you are able to function. Functions is very much important. For affordable housing on Earth, I think the common things will be to have a kitchen, or to have a good ventilation, or to have a bathroom, or to have a bedroom. These are some common things that we need, and the structural stability. The same thing we need also for space habitats, that astronauts can sleep, they're protected from radiation, they have the water recovery system, they have the food recovery system, they have a greenhouse in the habitat, so then they can produce their own fruits and vegetables, and they have a hydroponic garden, they have a medical emergency room where they can, if there's any kind of medical emergency, they can protect themselves, or they can do surgeries quick way. Also, another functions that space habitat needs to have is EVA rooms. EVA rooms is something where astronauts wear their space suits and get ready to go out and do extravehicular activity. That is, to perform any kind of activity outside of the habitat. For example, on the Apollo mission, when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, he went out and he performed some certain experiments. He collected the moon dust and he got it back. So there are a lot of hazardous situations outside in the open space, whether it's on moon, if it is in space, or it's on the Mars. So astronauts need a room that is called an EVA room, where they will get ready, they will dress up. And also there is another room is like an airlock pressurization room. So when you open a habitat, you don't want to straight away enter to the main part of the habitat, because then you will have all the infiltrated air inside. You won't have the pure air, oxygen, or you won't have the pure hydrogen inside. You will have the bad air coming into your habitat, and which will spoil the whole atmosphere, which will affect the atmosphere of the habitat. So there's also one room where there is air is being cleansed and is pressurized, and then you enter the main part of the habitat. So there are a lot of different this kind of considerations. So functions is, I think, the fifth most important point. So I think maybe if we summarize, so materials is one of the important parts, then functions is one of the important parts, and space is one of the important parts. There are a lot of similarities between the both.
No, thank you for sharing that. And it's pretty interesting how everything is trying to kind of merge in different functions, right? And in terms of what is going to be needed over there, right? So, for example, now that you were talking about this program that has been developed in Houston, I think you mentioned that, right? So, how was your approach with the program? Have you traveled to Houston, or how the progress of this situation has become being more real?
So I haven't studied this space architecture course at University of Houston. I have some friends studying that course. It's in States. That program is mostly focused on fluid mechanics. That is like a different kind of it's not just habitat about Mars or the moon, but it has also about to do with something rocket design and aeroplane design and space shuttle design. So it is a very intensive and also how to design an International Space Station, suborbital habitats, orbital habitats. So it is mostly focused on aerospace engineering, and that is something that is not my background. So I had a chance to study that course. So I studied by myself, and I did a lot of online courses as well from MIT. MIT has an open courseware, which helps you to understand, which provides some free courses. So I studied astronautics, basics of planetary science, earth sciences. So I get an idea about the atmosphere of Mars, the conditions of Mars, the challenges on Mars, the topography of Mars. And that's how then I did some material and structural engineering. So it helped me to understand different kind of materials. And then I know design from my background. So I in a way combined 3 to 4 different fields into one to build a habitat.
Correct. How do you like it so far? Thank you for being with us. If you want to know about the following part, just keep in touch and follow us for the next part of this episode. And please don't forget to leave me a review on whichever platform that you're using to listen in this podcast. Either good or bad. Remember, Mexicans have thicker skin. You won't hurt my feelings, that's for sure. And better yet, if it has some good criticism, so I can learn from it and improve it, that will be even greater. I understand this hasn't been perfect, but it can be better every time. I recognize your time is valuable. I would like you to enjoy this moment with me as well. Also, if you like what you get from this audio, I will recommend you to be the first to share this info with your friends, so maybe they can get something valuable from it as well. Thanks for listening, and let's meet again soon.